On surveillance alert for the mole in GCHQ, Nigel Havers.
Their secret world has put out the light of the ordinary world.
Michael Caine.
All the more reason to stick at what you're doing.
The search is on for the whistleblower tomorrow at 9:30 on BBC One. Strange goings on.
Speak to me. Edith!
The mystery unfolds for Thacker, starring Leslie Phillips, in 15 minutes.
Snooker fans might like to know that the Freddie Mercury tribute concert on 2 looks as though it's going to continue for at least another 45 minutes. Here on BBC One now at 9:25, the news with Michael Burke.
Labour's leadership contest is getting rougher. The contenders have clashed over tax. Their colleagues have warned them to cool it. The deposed Afghan leader is being allowed to escape as the rebels close in on Kabul. And 1 billion people worldwide watch the concert for Freddie Mercury. Good evening. The campaign for the leadership of the Labour Party became more heated and more personal today. John Smith's supporters have denied that his tax plans cost Labour the election and challenged his opponents to say which of the party's spending plans they would have kept. Brian Gould's supporters have said things were getting extremely adversarial. The leader of Britain's second largest union, John Edmonds, has warned the contenders not to resort to fisticuffs. And John Prescott, who's campaigning for the deputy leadership, has told them to cool it, as he put it. They risked damaging the party.
Brian Gould, quietly canvassing at the Scottish TUC in Perth today, is the outsider. But his offer of a radical rethink of policy and his questioning of Labour's tax plans do strike a chord in the party. So today's challenge seems designed to question his realism and his left-wing credentials. Mr Gould's camp were taken aback by the tone of the statement and called it adversarial. Mr Gould says he's not criticising Mr Smith personally.
We have to have something more than a tax policy to offer to people. I think we have to have a wider economic policy, focusing on full employment, focusing on bringing people into the wealth-creating process in a full way so that they derive the benefits. It's wealth distribution, not just wealth redistribution, that I'm really concerned about.
Mr Smith himself will visit Perth later this week, and most of the big unions will back him when the time comes. They'd prefer less talk and a smoother transition.
Of course, in the shadow cabinet, talk together the election on an agreed policy. And I hope there won't be too much search for differences between colleagues who I thought were united behind the common platform of the Labour Party.
The rank outsider in the contest, Ken Livingstone, may be out of the race altogether in little over a week's time, but he says he's the only one who can answer Mr Cook's conundrum.
We must defend the pensions increase, we must go ahead with the expansion in health and education. The cuts have to come in our military budget. We're spending 40% more of our national wealth on the military than any other West European nation.
But the man who threw down the gauntlet is unrepentant. Robin Cook denies that John Smith's plans cost Labour the election.
That is absolutely untrue, and it is clearly not consistent with what I heard in many doorsteps. What cost Labour votes was not our tax plans, but the outrageous misrepresentation of those tax plans by the Tory party and their friends in the tabloid press.
One of the contenders for the deputy leadership, John Prescott, is issuing a simple message to all the other candidates tonight. He says, cool it. He's warning that otherwise the party could be damaged. But a contest like this, born in the depths of despair after electoral defeat, is bound to generate a few bitter words.
Government officials in Afghanistan say the deposed president, Dr. Najibullah, will be allowed to leave the country. But the United Nations Special Envoy in the capital, Kabul, said negotiations over his departure were still going on. It's thought Dr. Najibullah is in hiding in the UN building in Kabul. Afghanistan itself is now largely under the control of Islamic Mujahideen guerrillas. Kabul is surrounded to the north by the group led by one of the main guerrilla commanders, Ahmed Shah Massoud, and to the south by a rival faction backing the extremist leader Gulbuddin Hekmatyar. The latest city to fall to the guerrillas is Kandahar. The takeover is said to have been peaceful. And in the city of Jalalabad, talks are continuing about the surrender of government forces. From Kabul, Mark Tully reports.
The United Nations has not confirmed that President Najibullah will be allowed to leave Afghanistan. is, it won't help to resolve the crisis or provide a stable government. The capital, Kabul, is still apparently in control of the government run by former communists. The streets are comparatively empty, but shops are open and supplies are still getting in. But Kabul airport is controlled by soldiers and mujahideen loyal to Massoud. Massoud is one of the few mujahideen leaders who stayed inside Afghanistan throughout the war with the Soviet Union. His alliance now controls most of the north of the country. The foreign minister says Massoud has agreed not to try to take over the capital. But 20 miles outside Kabul, forces loyal to the Mujahideen leader Gulbuddin Hekmatyar are positioned and threatening to throw out the government if it doesn't resign within a week. The only answer to Afghanistan now seems to be a Mujahideen government, but there's little possibility of that unless Massoud and Hekmatyar can forget their enmity. Mark Tully for BBC News in Kabul.
Here, the sister of Joseph McGee, the man police want to question about the murder of an army recruitment sergeant in Derby, has been charged with obstructing the police inquiry. McGee's brother, Patrick, said today he was considering suing the police for damages after being arrested on Friday.
Patrick McGee was drinking in his local pub in the village of Saltby in Leicestershire.
Next thing I knew, 4 guys just jumped on me, dragged me out of the pub, didn't tell me who they were, and in the struggle, as you can see, I received this injury.
Police officers then raided Mr. McGee's home nearby. His girlfriend and baby were by themselves.
I didn't know they were police. I just had guns pointing at me. I was terrified.
The couple are considering legal action against the police for damage to their home and for wrongful arrest.
Angela and Patrick would have only been too willing to assist the police in their inquiries into this incident without being subject to the terror and trauma of the last 72 hours.
A Leicestershire police spokesman said the force would look seriously at any complaint. In a separate development in Derby, a sister of Joseph McGee has appeared before magistrates under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. She was brought before a specially convened court. Everyone entering the building was searched. Policemen in flak jackets stood in the courtroom. During the 14-minute hearing, Kathleen McGee spoke only once to give her address and date of birth. She's accused of 2 offences, of withholding information she knew might lead to the arrest or conviction of a terrorist, and impeding the arrest of a man she believed or knew to be guilty of murder. No application was made for bail, and Miss McGee was remanded into police custody for 3 days while inquiries continue.
A man has appeared before a special sitting of Plymouth magistrates charged with the murder last week of 4-year-old Matthew Robinson. James Stewart Cochrane is also charged with a serious sexual offence. Mr. Cochrane, who's 25 and unemployed, was a lodger at the house where Matthew was murdered. He was remanded in custody for a week. There was no application for bail and reporting restrictions were not lifted. Britain's largest teachers' union has drawn back from a confrontation with the government over staff appraisals. Delegates at the National Union of Teachers' annual conference in Blackpool had voted to reject their leader's strategy of negotiation on the issue. But in a second vote, delegates also rejected calls to boycott the appraisals process.
Left-wing delegates began the day buoyed up by their success in rejecting the leadership's attempt to avoid a vote on boycotting teacher appraisal. The left argued that a boycott, while not disrupting pupils, would ensure appraisal schemes met their demands.
It would be popular with our members, it would be popular with other teachers, it would recruit members to this union, and it would defend state education. Vote for motion 25.
Teachers fear that appraisal, which involves being observed in the classroom by senior colleagues, will be used to introduce performance-related pay or as a means to dismiss them when redundancies are needed. The leadership shares these concerns, but believes negotiations with education authorities is the right approach. It argued that a boycott would isolate NUT members from other teachers.
Yes, there are head teachers who will abuse appraisal. And that is why it is crucial that this union sticks with every other teacher union in order to make certain they can't.
The arguments shifted opinion, and in a vote, the boycott was decisively rejected.
It is lost.
So, in the end, the conference pulled back from the brink of confrontation with the government. And following its earlier decision not to boycott the new national curriculum tests, this seems to confirm a new and less confrontational mood at the NUT.
A court in San Francisco has cleared the way for the first execution in California for 25 years. Robert Harris has been on death row awaiting execution for the past 14 years. He was convicted of murdering 2 teenage boys in San Diego. He could go to the gas chamber at San Quentin prison tomorrow after an appeal court lifted an order blocking the execution. Football, and with the league championship coming to its climax, Leeds have gone top of the First Division after beating Coventry. They're now a point clear of Manchester United, who lost at home to Nottingham Forest.
The news of Manchester United's latest slip predictably added verve to Leeds' early play, with Wallace fully extending Ogrisovic's giant frame. But Coventry, desperate for points themselves to continue a 25-year run in the top division, had few further alarms as Leeds let over-anxiety spoil what chances they did create. But then, 8 minutes into the second half, Leeds got the break they needed as Burrows missed kicks and Fairclough reacted quickest. The goal, though, did little to inspire Leeds, and they needed a controversial incident to secure their win. Stopped Cantona's shot legitimately, but the linesman ruled he'd handled on the line. FIFA rules, harshly interpreted, meant he had to be sent off. The penalty to send Leeds top. Earlier at Old Trafford, the biggest league crowd for 4 years watched Manchester United's title pursuit falter again, with Ian Wone taking advantage of poor defending and goalkeeping to put Nottingham Forest ahead. United, though, were soon level, Bruce and McClare proving that 2 heads are better than 1. But with only 9 minutes to go, United's defenders lost their heads altogether as Scott Gemmell was allowed to run through and turn the championship race into a...
At the bottom, Mark Bright got the first of the Crystal Palace goals that mean West Ham's chances of avoiding relegation are now purely theoretical. And Les Ferdinand scored twice in the last 10 minutes for Queen's Park Rangers to make Luton's chances of staying up increasingly unlikely. Norwich are still in trouble after losing at Sheffield Wednesday. Notts County are losing to Sheffield United. At the top of the second division, Derby, who beat Newcastle, go above Middlesbrough, who lost at Sunderland. Blackburn drew with Tranmere. The Irish horse Van Ton has won the Jameson Irish Grand National at Fairyhouse. Jason Titley rode the 13-2 shot to a 4-length victory from over the road. River Tarquin was third.
Leader over the road is staying on all the time on the far side, but it's Van Ton on the near side, over the road on the far side. Van Ton onto the stand rail. It's going to win it for Michael O'Brien, and at the line, it's Van Ton, the winner of the Irish National. He's well by about 4 lengths.
An AIDS charity concert in memory of the rock singer Freddie Mercury has been watched by an estimated 1 billion television viewers around the world. The event aims to raise money for AIDS research and promote awareness of the virus.
This has been the evening that Freddie Mercury's friends and colleagues and around 72,000 of his fans have come together to celebrate his life and raise awareness of the dangers of AIDS.
Tell everybody around the world that AIDS affects us all. That's what these red ribbons are all about.
The red ribbons, so much in evidence at tonight's events, are a symbol of AIDS awareness. Just about everyone's been wearing them, including the stars.
So many of us have actually had friends, or maybe in some cases members of families, who have been struck down by it. And I think this is, as well as probably the most, just the greatest place to create an explosion of awareness for this particular situation.
If the message has been serious, the camp, upbeat personality of Freddie Mercury has also been in evidence, with reminders of what made him such a popular figure in the rock world. At the climax of tonight's show, performances by some of the biggest names in the business. They'll be hoping that the crowds here and the worldwide television audience, estimated at 1 billion people, will remember tonight for its music and its message.
Tonight's concert at Wembley is still going on. That's all from the newsroom. Good night.
evening from Newsroom South East. A leading insurance assessor sparked off a row when he claimed the City of London bomb blast would eventually cost £1.8 billion and lead to a huge increase in insurance premiums.
3 people died and more than 90 were injured when the IRA bomb went off in St Mary's Axe in the heart of the city's financial district 11 days ago. The Baltic Exchange and the Chamber of Shipping were so badly damaged it's thought they'll have to be demolished. The managing director of Salmon Hilton Adams, Jeffrey Salmon, claimed the total cost of the explosion was on the same scale as the 1987 hurricane, which devastated southern England. He warned insurance premiums could rise by as much as 35%. But the Association of British Insurers put the figure at £1 billion at most and said premiums were unlikely to be affected.
Thieves have used a JCB digger to pull a cash dispenser containing nearly £60,000 from the wall of a branch of the Abbey National in Kent. It's the latest in a string of similar robberies across the region over the past month.
Yesterday's raid at Gillingham is the 5th in which a gang have used a mechanical digger to steal cash machines from branches of the Abbey National. Then drove it to the Hempstead Valley shopping centre. The gang first struck at the Society's Sutton branch in South London on March the 17th. 11 days later they raided the branch at Peckham, followed by Bromley on April the 2nd, and then Tulse Hill last Monday. In each case, the robbers drove the digger into the front wall, then pulled the cash machine from its mounting. At Tulse Hill, the gang left a second dispenser on the ground as they escaped. Recently, there was a similar raid at Aylesford, near Maidstone, in which...
And that's all from Newsroom South East tonight. We're back tomorrow in Breakfast News. Do join us then. But now it's the weather with John Ketley.
Good evening. Well, for the third day running this Easter, the temperature reached 19 degrees, and today it was the turn of Jersey and the Channel Islands, and almost 10 hours of sunshine to go with it. In fact, it turned out quite warm over much of England, 17 degrees as far north as Southport and Manchester. But there's a change coming about as this cold front moves into Western Ireland at the moment. That's going to swing right the way across the country during the next 24 hours, although amounts of rain in the south are going to be really very small indeed. But already on the radar we can see a sliver of rain running through Northern Ireland, some more extensive and heavier rain up there in northwestern parts of Scotland. That's where the heaviest rain is going to be tonight. But further south, just patchy, mainly around western coasts and hills. The odd shower perhaps breaking out in central parts of England as the night goes along, with this clearer weather chasing in behind. Not a cold night anyway, but quite windy to begin with. The strongest winds eventually being confined to the far northeast of Scotland. So tomorrow, central and eastern parts of England and eastern Scotland.
Copycats with Gary Wilmot, Johnny Moore, A.J. Harvey, Alan Stewart, Dave Evans, Jessica Martin, and Andrew O'Connor.
I know what you're thinking, but I'm not one of them funny fellas. I just help them. I've been ever so busy lately.
You know, the other day I went to... I did, you know. The movie on the counter said, "What bus does it nothing, it just wore out, you know."
Mr. Duckworth?
Aye, that's me.
You're the father of a bouncing baby boy.
Typical of my missus, that.
What do you mean?
Well, she always burns everything. Tell Records proudly present Hits on the Keyboard. Your favourite pianoforte music all on one album. Kings and Queens of the Keyboard take you on a merry montage of memorable music. Snorkel Durante.
Oh, what a tune for spooning. I had my voice trained. They... It's got the whole world's crooning. That's not my real nose. That's my real nose. Hey, my nose is running. Up in Iceland, Harry and Dave made their own I think a deep, I think a do. That note was given to me by Bing Crosby, and was he glad to get rid of it? I love you.
Hello, and welcome to Blue Play School, and a special big hello from Jack here. Let's go over and see what Michael's up to.
Hello, and today I'm going to show you how to make some very, very lovely and very, very appetizing homemade or white wine. It's ever so simple to make and makes excellent daddy. Now all you need are some grapes, some sugar, and of course a basin full of warm water, and not forgetting a 14-pound clarifying sedimentary demijohn. Now, first of all, you place the grapes into the basin, and then the sugar. Plenty of sugar. All of the sugar. And now comes the best part of all. You got to thread the grapes in and squash them all up. But remember to take your shoes and socks. Jump on the grapes and really squash them up. Just like being on your...
Day. Yeah. And I was waiting in the queue. All of a sudden, 3 geezers came in, stockings over their heads, guns in their hands. Everybody on the floor. The 2 birds at the side of me. I heard them talking. One said, "No, mate, ball face down. It's a bank raid, not an office party."
Another hit on the keyboard, the stylish touch of Richard Clayton.
Hey, listen, I went to dancing the other night. Oh, it was great. I love it dancing. Oh, yes, I walked in, I was dancing with this wee girl. I was dancing round and round. She said, "You'll have to stop." I said, "Are you getting dizzy?" She said, "No, you're unscrewing my wooden leg."
You can see that episode again tomorrow evening at 11:40 over on BBC One.
Why is there a crisis? Every time we have a bit of sunshine, it's a drought.
Last year, 20 million Britons suffered water restrictions. Some lasted all winter. With 3 million car washes every week, 2 million dishwashers every day, and 500,000 washing machines every hour, is growing affluence overloading Britain's ageing water mains. As 40 of Britain's rivers run dry, Nature explores the crisis facing the water industry and asks whether water meters provide a solution. A Drop to Drink, Tuesday 8:30 on BBC Two. Now on BBC Two, before we envelope ourselves in the passionate embrace of the Deep South and the movie which has enthralled audiences for more than 50 years, a foray into the animated world of